Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the course Programming Language Concept. This lecture is basically the continuation of the previous lecture. In previous lecture, we started loop control structure or looping structure. In the previous lecture, we also discussed the three different types of, we had an overview of the three different types of loops. We started with for loop and then we discussed like the second loop, that was while loop and do while loop. In previous lecture, we discussed for loop in quite detail. In today's lecture, we're going to discuss the while loop and do while loop in quite detail. So basically these are the topics. First of all, we are going to talk about the while loop. Then we will discuss syntax of while loop. We will also talk about the flowchart of while loop. And then examples. And after that, do while loop, syntax of do while loop, flowcharts of do while loop, examples and difference between while and do while loop. The objective of this entire chapter is, I told you, that it's basically introduce the students to another decision control structure, and that is looping structure. The outcome, obviously the outcome after taking this lecture, student should be able to understand and apply while and then do while loop. Of course, you will have the analysis and the application of loop. So these are basically the outcomes. First of all, you understand while loop, and then you apply while loop in practical programming. You also understand do while loop, and then you apply the do while loop in practical programming. And obviously the analysis part is very much important, so you analyze these different loops and the differences of this while and do while loop, and also you apply them in practical problem solving. Obviously these are the differences, so detail in detail how to program chapter number 2, Robert Leffer object oriented programming chapter number 3. So you can find while loop, do while loop as well as for loops in these two different books with two different chapters. First of all, we will talk about the while loop. We will define while loop, that what is while loop. Basically, while loop is the simplest of C++ language. This form of the loop is very much simple. You will see the syntax, you will see the flowchart, and then you would see that, of course, it is one of the simplest form of the loops. This loop executes one or more statements while the given condition remains true. In previous lecture, we discussed the for loop. So basically, for loop, the duty and job of the for loop was the same. Basically, this loop also executes one or more statements while the given condition remains true. So unless the condition is true, the body or the statements inside the body of the loop will be executed. Now, it is useful when the number of iteration is not known in advance. If you remember, we discussed this point in for loop as well, that for loop is used in those situations where we know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed. But here, while loop can be very much useful if you don't know in advance that how many times the loop could be executed. This is the general syntax of the while loop. The general syntax of while loop is as under. Obviously, the first part is what, that is initialization. So here you have to initialize the counter variable, just like we saw the initialization process of counter variable in for loop. Then next comes this while loop. Okay, this while is what, basically this is a keyword. And after while, you need to use parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis you need to put condition. It may be any relational expression. After this, the pair of curly brackets. Now this is what, this is basically the opening bracket and this is the closing bracket. So this is called as the body of the while loop. Now inside the body of the loop, or inside the body of the while loop, whatever our logic is, we have to write that inside the body of the while loop. You can see here that there are few statements, statement 1, statement 2, and then increment and decrement. So this is how you write the body of the while loop, and this is how you basically write the while loop. Let me let me repeat this once again. First of all, you need to initialize the counter variable, then you need to use while keyword, and after that you need to use condition. After condition, you need to use body. Inside the body of the loop, you need to use whatever statements are there, and obviously it should be there should be increment and decrement part as well. So this is the general, like this is the flow chart of the while loop. You can see this is basically the start. After the start, we have to initialize the counter variable. After initialization process is done, next thing is what that is testing, or next step is basically the condition. So we give condition. If this condition is true, body of the loop will be executed. Whatever statements are in there, in the body of the loop, that will be executed. After this, the increment or decrement part will be executed, and then you can see the control moves again to the testing part, where the condition is tested again. If the condition is still true, the body of the loop will be executed, and then increment part, and again the same process will be repeated until this condition is true. When the condition becomes false, what happens? The program will be stopped, and you will see basically the end of the program. So this is how this while loop works. Now, working of while loop, how does while loop work? There might be a question in your mind that how does while loop work? Basically, this is how while loop works. First of all, before this condition, we need to initialize variable. Okay, the condition is checked. If it is true, the control enters the body of the loop and executes all statements in the body. After executing the statements, it again moves to the start of the loop and evaluates the condition again. As I have explained these steps in previous slide when I was explaining the flowchart of this while loop. This process continues as long as the condition remains true. When the condition becomes false, the loop is terminated. While loop terminates only when the condition becomes false. Okay, if the condition remains true, the loop never ends. A loop that has no endpoint is known as infinite loop. Okay, this means that if the condition remains true forever, obviously the loop is going to run forever. So that process is basically what that is known as the infinite loop. When there is no endpoint for ending the loop, then obviously that loop is called as infinite loop. So this is how this while loop works. Now remember that you cannot learn anything until you write some practical things or some practical programs about that particular topic. So let's try to work on a small example, and then we will continue our discussion. But before writing any program, when to use the while loop, you need to take this into consideration. Now usually the while loop is used when we don't know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed. This is self-explanatory. I have explained this many times that we use while loop in certain situation where we don't know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed. So in while loop, first of all, initialization is done, second condition will be tested, then the body of the loop will be tested. At the end, increment and decrement operators are used. So first of all, let's try to write a program where we know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed, and then we will come to the second point, and that is that when we don't know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed. So let's try to open our IDE. Fine. So this is IDE. As usual, we need to include all the header files, hash include, iostream, and then we have to using namespace std. Fine. So first of all, let's try to understand this with a very simple example, and that is that first of all we need to declare a variable I. This is counter variable, so this variable will be used inside loop. Now I, that's equal to 1. We have initialized variable I from 1. Now this is condition. The condition says that this body of the loop should be executed for how many times? For 10 times. This is basically the situation where we know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be used, just like for loop. So I less than n equal to 10. Now we need to put some statements here. Fine, C out I. So it's going to print me the value of I each time the body of the while loop is executed. And after this, we need to increment the counter variable. So this is the increment part. Let me explain this program. I have declared an integer variable, and that is I. And then I have basically initialized, or I have assigned a value of 1 to I, because this I will be used in counter as a counter variable. Now this is keyword while, and then I have used parentheses. Inside parentheses I have a relational expression or a condition. In simple words, the value of I is less than or equal to 10. When this condition is true, see out I. When this condition is true, the body of the while loop will be executed. The control will enters here. For the first time, it's going to print us the value of I, which will be 1, and then end line after this, value of I will be incremented. So let's try to trace this program. First of all, the value of I is initialized from 1. So here 1 is less than and equal to 10. It means condition is true. When condition is true, the control will transfer to the body of while loop, where it's going to print us 1 as an output, and then end line means that the next output should be displayed in new line. After this, I plus plus, the value of I will be incremented, because here I have used increment operator by 1. So the value of I will be incremented to 2. After this, the control will transfer to condition again. Now here 2 less than or equal to 10. Condition is still true, so it's going to print me 2 this time, and then end line. After this, value will be incremented to 3 with the help of increment operator. After this, control will transfer to condition. The body of the loop will execute it one more time. So this process is continued, but till which time? Now when the value of I becomes greater than 10, let's assume with the help of this increment operator, the value is 11. So 11 is less than or equal to 10. It means condition is false. That's why the program will be terminated. So now let's try to run this program and see the output of this program. You can see a very simple program is here, 1, 2, 3, up to 10. This is the output of this program, because this is what we wanted. Now let's try to write a new program. Suppose we want to calculate the area of a circle for 3 times. Now 3 times the program should ask me the radius of the circle, and then we're going to input the radius 3 times. So at the same time, the program is then display area of a circle for 3 times as well. Now how can we write this program? First of all, we are going to initialize the counter variable. Let's change this I to C. So this is the initialization part. The next part is we are going to use radius, fine, and then area, fine. So these are basically our 2 variables, fine. Now next is that we need to use while loop, and after this we need to use condition. Now you can look at this condition. We discussed, or we explained a few minutes ago. I said that the body of the loop should be executed for 3 times. That's why I'm giving condition I less than, or it should be rather C less than or equal to 3. After this, pair of curly braces, and then I have to basically print a message for the user: enter the radius of a circle. Enter the radius of a circle. After this, there should be Cn, so that we should take the value of the radius from the user. This is input. This object is used for taking input from the user. Now after this, we need to calculate the area, and the area should be calculated with a formula like pi r square. So we know that the value of pi is 3.14, that is constant. Pi r square, r and 2r, r times r. And after this, semicolon. Now after this, what we need to do, we need to print this area equal area. So this means that we have to use another inline so that each output of the area should be displayed in new line or on new line. So this is how this is our program, and this basically we have completed our program. First of all, I have initialized a counter variable, and that is c equal to 1. So I have initialize it from 1, then I use two variables, declare two variables of float type. One is radius, other one is basically area. Now here in the condition, while c less than or equal to 3, because c has the initial value of 1, 1 less than or equal to 3, condition is true. Now this message will be displayed for the user for the first time. Then the user will enter some value into the radius. After this, we need to use the complete radius into radius. Fine. So now this is completed, and after this, at the end, we need to increment the counter variable as well. Do not forget to use the counter variable to increment the counter variable like this. So this is how this entire program works. Let's try to run this program and see the result on the screen. Now you can see here, enter the radius of a circle. Where is the control? Control is basically here in the CN object. Now the moment we basically enter 2 and we press enter, what happens? It's going to display us, it's going to calculate the area, and then it's going to display us the area. After this, the counter variable will be incremented, and then the control will transfer back to the testing part where it's going to check the condition. So this next time the value of the C will be 2 because of this increment operator, and then it's going to compare to less than or equal to 3. Still condition is true. So you can see, enter the radius of a circle. Now it is asking me the radius of a circle for second time. So this time I'm going to enter 3. When I enter 3, it's going to, like, this process will be done. After this, the program is going to print me the area, and after this the counter variable will be incremented, and then the control will transfer here to this condition, which the value of the counter variable will become 3. So 3 less than or equal to 3, condition is still true, and then it's going to ask me for the third time about the radius of a circle. Now you can see this is the third time I have given the radius of a circle for the first time here, and then for the second time, and then this is basically the output. So this is the third time that I would like to input the radius of a circle. Now still the control is here. It's going to calculate. After, when I press enter, it's going to calculate the area. After this, this statement will be executed, the area will be printed, and then the value of counter variable will be incremented to 4. After this, the control will transfer here to condition part, where it's going to check the condition. Here the condition means that it is basically 4. So 4 less than or equal to 3, condition is false. That's why the program is terminated. So this is how while loop works. Now this is the first thing that you need to see when you know in advance that how many times the program is going to run. But what about if you want to run the program that you don't know in advance for how many times the program is going to be executed? So let's try to run this logic here. Let's try to write a program and then run the program to see this logic, that how this works when we don't know in advance that for how many times the body of the loop is going to be executed. So float, we will see float, then R for radius, and area. Fine, these are two variables, and then I'm going to use a character variable ch. Fine. So here I'm going to use this condition, while ch should not be equal to smaller n, and ch should not be equal to again the upper letter n. Now this is the condition. I have given the condition. Okay, let's try to write this a simple message for the user. Enter radius of a circle. User will enter the radius with the help of the cn object. So we are going to give r here, and then we're going to calculate the area of a circle. So again, the formula is pi r square times r, and then semicolon, and after this I would like to print the area that's equal to area and this inline. After this, I would like to, if the user wants to repeat this program, that's why I would like to, do you want to continue, or do you want to continue? A simple message y and n. A simple message, and after this we're going to take input from the user. So this time we're going to use ch variable, which is character. It means that it's going to take a character from the user. For example, if the user wants to run this program again, so he has to enter a character other than a small letter n and upper letter n. If the user wants to stop this program, then he has to enter n or the upper letter n. So let's try to run this program. But before running this program, let me explain this program and the working of this program. First of all, I have declared two variables, one for radius and the other one for area. I have used a character, I have declared a character variable, and that is ch. Now ch will be used to store a character. For example, in this case, you can see if user wants to run this program again, then he has to enter a character other than small letter or upper letter. That's why if the user enters n, small letter n, or the upper letter n, in that case the program will stop working. So first of all, while ch not equal to n and ch not equal to upper letter n. So this is basically a simple condition where we actually tells the program that if character is not equal to lower letter n or character is not equal to upper letter n, in that case you need to execute the body of the while loop. So these statements will be executed, then it's going to ask for a character, we will enter a character. So this is how this program works. Let's try to run this program and check the result. Now here you can see enter radius of a circle. It means that the condition is true. Here remember that if you are not going to initialize the character or any variable, it's going to take any like random value, okay, random value. So that's why it has already taken the random value, and that value is not equal to the ASCII code of upper letter, smaller letter n and upper letter n. That's why the condition is true. When the condition is true, so this statement will be executed. Now we are here, the control is here, cn basically greater than, and then r. So we need to enter radius of a circle. Suppose the radius of a circle is 4.1. Then next time it's going to print us the value of the area, because the area will be calculated here. After this, the area will be printed on the screen, and after this message will be printed to the user. Do you want to continue, yes or no? So if the user wants to continue, he must enter a character, or he must input a character other than N, smaller letter N or upper letter N. So now you can see area is basically displayed on the screen. The program is asking me a question, do you want to continue? If I want to continue, then I have to press Y. Program is continued. So the control now again, because here Y is not equal to N, okay, that's why condition is still true. This statement will be executed. For example, this time this is the radius, okay, it's going to print me the area. Now it has printed me the area of a circle. Do you want to continue? Again there is a message, do you want to continue? So if I say yes, it means that Y will be stored in CH. Now the control will again test the condition. Still character is not equal to N, because the ASCII code of Y is different than the ASCII code of N. That's why it's going to, now the condition is still true, it's going to execute the body for one more time, this time like 31.3, enter radius of a circle. It has calculated the area. Now this time I want to terminate this program. So what I would do, I would simply enter in, the program will be terminated, and you can see this is the termination point of the program. So this is how this entire thing works. I hope that you have got the main concept that where can we use this while loop, or when can we use while loop. So these are programs to calculate the area of a circle. I have already written this program. This is also, I have written also this program, usage of while, when somebody don't know in advance that how many times the body of the loop will be executed. Next comes the do while loop. Now remember, do while loop is another type of loop, and this is the last type of loop that we are going to discuss in this course. So do while loop, first of all, let's look at the do while loop. The do while loop is similar to the while loop. Now it's quite similar to the while loop, but there is one subtle difference, and that is testing condition occurs at the end of the loop. We will see that there will be basically the testing condition, and that testing condition would be basically comes at the end of the loop. Now having the test condition at the end guaranteed that the body of the loop always executes at least one time if the condition false for the first time too. Now you have to keep this thing in your mind, that this is the benefit, or this is the advantage of this while loop, even if the condition, of the do while loop, even if the condition fails at first attempt, then the body will be executed for one time. This is not true about the while loop, because in while loop, if the condition fails for the first time, then body will not be executed. But in do while loop, this is possible. Body will even be executed even if the condition falls for the first time. So the test condition must be enclosed in parentheses and followed by a semicolon. We will see the syntax, and then we will see the flowchart as well. You would understand that you have to use the semicolon at the end of the while condition. Semicolons also follow each of the statements within the block. Now we have discussed this point that basically each statement in C++ must be terminated with a semicolon. So that is discussed here as well. The body of the loop, the block of code, is enclosed in pair of braces. We will see, for example, like while loop, okay, if you want to execute the body of the loop, then you have to use pair of braces. Now the do while loop is in exit condition loop. This is also called as exit condition loop. This means that the body of the loop is always executed first. Then the test condition is evaluated. As I have discussed, that first of all the body of the loop is executed, then the condition is tested at the end. Now if the condition is true, the program executes the body of the loop again. If the condition is false for the first time, the loop terminates and program execution continues with the statement following the while. Now again, here it says that if the condition is true, the loop or the program executes the body of the loop again. Now if the test condition is false, keep this thing in your mind, the loop terminates and program execution continues with a statement following the while loop. This is basically the simple or the general syntax of do while loop. Remember, do here is a keyword, okay? So we use this keyword first, okay? Keep this thing in your mind. Do not use D or do not write D in upper letter. It should be in lower letter. After this pair of braces, block of code, inside the block of code you can also use increment and decrement. While test condition, so this is basically the condition, and the condition, after condition you have to use this parenthesis. Do not forget parenthesis. So do not forget parenthesis, as well as do not forget to write the semicolon at the end of the parenthesis. So this is the flowchart for do while loop. Remember, this is quite different than the flowchart of for loop as well as the while loop. First of all, as usual, we have to initialize the variable. Now in this case, if you remember, in while loop we saw this, there was condition after the initialization part. But here you can see, here we have what? We have the body of the loop. So first of all, the initialization part is done. After initialization, the body of the loop is executed, and then there is basically increment, okay, the increment of counter variable. After that, once the body of the loop and increment is done, then there is a condition. So it checks the condition. If the condition is true, again it is going to execute the body of the loop for one more time, and then increment. Again it's going to check the condition. If the condition is still true, this process is continued until the condition is false. So when the condition is false, the program will be terminated. So this is how this do while loop works. Now there is a comparison for do while and while loop with the help of a simple program. You can see IO stream, hash include IO stream, and then basically conio. There is basically using namespace std. So first of all, integer I that's equal to 0. This is the initialization part. You can see there is also initialization part, okay. I have declared variable, and then value is initialized from 0, variable is initialized from 0. After this, you can see we have used do. So the body of the loop will be executed. Do while loop, it's going to print as the I, and then end line. After this, value will be incremented, and then it's going to check this condition. So if this condition is true, the control will transfer to the body. The body will be executed for one more time. So this process is continued. But if you look at the while loop, here in while loop you can see we have initialized variable. After this, condition is checked, and then cout, the body is basically executed, the counter variable is incremented, and then it checks the condition. So this is basically the comparison of while and do while loop. Let's try to run or let's try to write a program using this do while loop, a very simple program. First of all, as we discussed, that there should be the initialization in do while loop, okay. So we have done the first part. The next part is what? The next part is obviously we have to write do. The third part is to use the body of the loop. So you can see the color of this do is changed because this is keyword. Now if you try to write this D as upper letter, then it's going to give you error. So that's why it should be do, okay, with a small letter. Now here what we are going to do, we are going to write, or we are going to print the value of I in reverse order. So this means that first of all 10 will be printed, then 9, then 8, then 7, then 6, 5, up to 1. So for this reason, here we need to use the decrement operator, and then here we need to use we need to use condition while, because condition will be tested at the end as we have discussed. Okay, while I is greater than or equal to 1. Keep this thing in your mind that you have to use this condition, and in the condition you have to use greater than sign, not less than sign, because the value of I is initialized from 10. That's why 10 is greater than or equal to 1 condition is true. Do not forget to write the semicolon. So let us discuss how this program works or how this program runs. Okay, first of all, it's going to like initialize the counter variable I from 10. Then there is do. After do, we have the body of the loop. Inside the body of the loop, I have written cout I. So it's going to print the value of I, which is 10. And then end line is used. After this, the value of I will be decremented by 1. So now the value of I would become 9. Now here, after this, while 9 less than or equal to 1 condition is true, that's why the control will transfer back to the body. This time cout 9 will be printed, and then end line after this 9 minus 1, the value of I would become 8. Condition is checked. 8 greater than or equal to 1 condition is still true. So if the condition is true, it's going to execute the body for one more time. That's why condition will be like it will print as 8. After this, I minus minus, the value of I would become 7. So this process is continued until the value of I becomes less than 1. It means when the value of I becomes 0. So now in that case, while 0 greater than or equal to 1 condition is false, that's why the loop will be terminated. Now you can look at the output of the program. You can see 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. So this is how this while loop works. Now let's go back to the slide and discuss some of the differences between the while and do while loop. Remember, while loop, first of all, in while loop, condition comes before the body of the loop. Now this is obviously understood that the condition in while loop is basically tested first, and after that body is executed. But here in do while loop, condition comes after the body of the loop. First of all, the body is executed. After that, condition is checked, as you have seen in practical program as well. Second point, if condition is false, in the beginning, while is never executed. Now keep this thing in your mind that if the condition is false in the beginning, okay, then while loop will never be executed. But do while loop is executed at least once, even if the condition is false in the beginning. Even if the condition is false, the do while loop will be executed. Why? Because of the same reason that here condition is tested after the execution of the body. So this is the main difference between while and do while loop. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you have learned the concept of looping structure. I hope that you have learned the while loop, do while loop, and for loop, and I hope that you have done many programs, you have practiced on these programs. So thank you very much for watching the video.